Our meeting, if you've got a cell phone, please either silence it or turn it off.
Thanks.
We held an executive session of the City Commission pursuant to ORS 192.660.2I to review the city manager. And we will continue that executive session to Monday at 6 p.m. Assuming everybody is going to be able to be there, but I think we've tentatively set that. So I will convene the regular session of the Oregon City Commission for Wednesday, December 18th, 2019, our last meeting of the year. Call roll, please.
Commissioner Rachel Lyle Smith. Here. Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Present.
Mayor Dan Holliday.
Here. Please stand and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we have a proclamation and a couple of presentations. I'm going to read the proclamation for the 175th anniversary of the founding of Oregon City. I'm not going to use that word because I can't pronounce it.
Yeah, how do you pronounce it? It's really
I think never mind.
Bicentennial.
So,
Sesquicentennial, I can say. Yeah,
No.
everybody knows that.
know ye by proclamation, whereas on June 26, 1844, a petition was presented to the provisional government for the issuance of an act to incorporate Oregon City, and whereas the bill to incorporate Oregon City was read for the third and final time, then passed on December 24th, 1844, and whereas the city of Oregon City was, on that date, the first city incorporated in the American West, that vast area beyond the Missouri River, and whereas the provisional legislature gave Oregon City its first charter and proclaimed it to be the capital of the Oregon country, and whereas a day is hereby set forth commemorating this important event, now therefore I, Dan Holliday, Mayor of Oregon City, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, December 24th, 2019 as the bicentennial of the Incorporation of Oregon City, and urge all citizens of the city and state on this Christmas Eve to honor this great heritage and go forward in harmony, peace, and prosperity, and continue to be good stewards of this beautiful land. In witness hereof, I set my hand and cause the great seal of the city of Oregon City to be affixed on this 18th day of December, 2019. Later. And then we are on to, where's my, here it is. So we have a presentation from Willamette Falls and the Landing Heritage Area presentation by Mayor Norris. Mayor Norris.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. It's always great to come back, and again, thank you for your service. I certainly respect what you do in keeping the city going in a positive direction. Love that. I'm here to give you an update on the Willamette Falls and Landings Heritage Area. I need to move very quickly through this since I only have 5 minutes. So we'll wait here for this to load. But there are a couple of new things that have happened with the Heritage Area. We've been working on it for 10 years, and we're finally making some really substantial progress. During that 10 years, though, we haven't been just sitting. I hope my 5 minutes aren't starting.
It's not your fault.
We've been making substantial progress, especially at building partnerships through the community.
Yeah, it is.
So you have the short version and the John Lewis
I
version?
do have the long version. I could talk more slowly, but
I'll
you
get
know what I might do? If I have to wing it without, I can.
No.
But
I'll get it.
We need, it's good.
It's not a bad little PowerPoint, and you guys are the first too. Actually, I guess if I have time to talk off the cuff while we're waiting, I want to thank the City of Oregon City for jumping on board years ago okay, let's just do that. Okay. So our 22-person board includes diverse interests and expertise, and includes, as you may know, Commissioner McGriff, Claire Met, Gail Yazzelino and me. We have been jumping through the federal hoops for 10 years, as I said, and have finally gained the blessing of the National Park Service, which has cleared the way for the introduction of our National Heritage Area legislation in Congress in 2020. So you'll also notice that you may have seen we have a new name, and it is called Willamette Falls and Landings Heritage Area. This more broadly includes the upriver partners and honors the stories of the tribal people who used the landings along the Willamette for their canoes before the other traders moved up and down the Willamette carrying wool, grain, lumber, and other products. So the Heritage Area covers 56 river miles from Philip Foster Farm in Eagle Creek to the rich industrial complex at Willamette Falls to Canby, Aurora, Champouie, St. Paul's, Dayton, and ending near Salem at Jason Lee's mission site. So we were named a state heritage area in 2015, which is our first step on the way to national designation. A national heritage area has some big advantages. One of the things we've been doing in the 10 years is we became the state heritage area. But the big advantage is we get to use this arrow, the National Park Service arrow, to attract tourists. Technical assistance from National Park Service will come, and we get to be locally administered. The non-regulatory nonprofit, the Willamette Falls and Landings Heritage Area Coalition will be administering it. So you know Oregon City's rich history. I don't really probably need to go through that with you, but as you know, we're honored to be on the lands tonight of the Clowiwalla, the Kalapuya, and the Clackamas people. From fur trading and trapping to the Oregon Trail, settlement led to Oregon City's designation, as Mayor Holliday just read, as Oregon's first capital, and so many other historic firsts. So with your financial support, which came very early and leveraged annually over $60,000. So we really appreciate what Oregon City has done for us. But we've gathered momentum around the nation's second most powerful waterfall. Now, of course, we have the locks, very important, at the Legacy Project, and the Heritage Area, creating a critical mass here. We couldn't have done it without your support and your participation. So another exciting project, which you may know about, at the end of the bridge on the Westland side, the old Westland City Hall and Firehouse is now ours. It's going to be called the Heritage and Cultural Center at the Falls. And it's moving forward with financial support from Westland, Oregon, Clackamas County Tourism, and others. It will be a gathering place for all, and it's right there in the middle of the historic area, so I think it'll be really beneficial. So we need two things from you tonight. I have a couple of requests. First of all, I wish to thank you for your continuing support. Thank you, Wyatt. And we appreciate that you've budgeted to help the Heritage Area in the past. Second, we asked you to update your official resolution of support. The last one was signed by me in 2010, not very current. So this resolution will go in the packet that we take to Congress, where our U.S. Representative Kurt Schrader will be introducing the bill. So again, your support has been invaluable. We thank you for all of that. I think the best is yet ahead. So thank you again, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Questions?
And Denise, we sure appreciate your support on the board.
Thank you. We have, the city is very well represented by the people that Alice mentioned, and the group is on track. They have lots of things going on, and I appreciate the fact that Oregon City has been as supportive as it has. You too.
Mayor Norris, thanks for coming in, and thanks for all your hard work over this last 10 years in doing this. I know that you and Mike retired, and so in between your world travels, I'm glad to have you helping us out with this.
No, we won't ever give up on Oregon City. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Dan, are we going to be able to put that?
We'll bring you a copy of the resolution.
Yes, she's going to get it to us.
Oh, sorry, Alice, 1 second. Commissioner Wallace-Smith, you had something?
Yeah, I have a quick question. When do you think your new building will open?
The funding is coming together. I think the city of West Lynn is still dealing with some of the financial
Yes,
issues.
yeah.
And I think there's supposed to be another meeting in January, but we've drawn up plans. There's really been a lot of money raised towards the renovation of the building. It needs a little help to move in there, but.
Probably some earthquake resistance.
That's one of many things.
Earthquake?
Seismic upgrade.
Oh, yes, seismic upgrade is a very important part of it, so.
And they're still working out the parking issue because you've got the mill on the other side, which actually is the owner of all the parking.
Yeah, that's probably the most substantial issue. Of course, raising money isn't a small feat, but that's going very well. So I really see it as a gathering place. It could be a place where people gather before they tour either side of the river. It's a big enough building that can house several heritage organizations with central administration, so it should be good.
Do we need to
We need
make
to
a
get-
motion to support a new resolution?
I think it's going to
or-
come back
It's gonna
to
come
us.
back, yeah.
Well,
get the
now that I've given you the background, it'll just be a simple resolution that you can pass on the mayor can sign and
Sure.
Sounds good.
take it. So thank you
Okay,
very
you'll
much.
get that and
Yes.
get it to us second meeting in January?
Yes.
Yes,
All right, thank you.
super, thank you.
Next, we have Planning Commission annual update, Ms. Turway.
Thank you very much. Our 2019 Planning Commission Chair, Mike Mitchell.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Mike Mitchell. I'm an Oregon City resident, and I've had the honor to serve this year as chair of the Oregon City Planning Commission. It's been an interesting year. It's been a learning year. As you all know, we had 4 new members start at the beginning of this year, myself included. But with the assistance of Laura Turway and her whole staff, and Bill Kabeisman and Carrie Richter keeping us from stepping in any legal potholes, I think we've done a good job of getting up to speed and getting our work done. So I'd like to publicly thank Laura and her whole staff and Bill and Carrie for what they've done for us. While I'm on the subject of thanks, I want to thank one more time former Planning Commissioner Bob Mahoney. He served on the Planning Commission for many years. He has a professional background as a planner. He was a huge help to me, and he was a huge help to the whole Planning Commission. We were sorry to see him go, and we wish him the best with his family, and thank him one more time on behalf of the Planning Commission for his work. Just a little bit about some of the things that we've worked on in 2019, and these are kind of in chronological order back to the first of the year. Master plan and grading plan for the Cove Phase 2, and hopefully we'll get to use some of that work someday. Site plan and design review for parking lot at Malala and Pearl, a 5-lot subdivision on Hiram Avenue, site plan and design review for a cabinet shop on First Street, site plan design review, conditional use variances for our new public safety building, and it's wonderful to see that underway. Site plan design review and a parking adjustment at Malala and Beaver Creek. Annexation, zone change and variances for a 7-lot subdivision on Maple Lane Road that you just discussed recently. Site plan design review, parking adjustment at Malala Avenue and Warner Street. And then we finished the year strong 2 nights ago with the site plan design review and the conditional use for our new Gardner Middle School, which is going to be a terrific project. A lot of hard work on the part of staff and the school district working together on that. And I think we've got a plan that everybody, and a building that everybody will be proud of. We also started in May across multiple sessions discussing various parts of the Beaver Creek concept plan. We have now, the Planning Commission has given to staff our input on code adjustments that we would like to see. Staff is working on those now. They'll be bringing those draft amendments back to the Planning Commission shortly after the first of the year. We'll work through those, and then those will be coming to you. Just a little bit of a preview on that, some of the things that you're going to see. One of the goals of that concept plan area is to be more friendly and helpful to cottage businesses, cottage industry, and home-based businesses. So we're going to be recommending things like allowing up to 3 employees to come to a home to work, allowing some retail sales, limited retail sales in the residential zones. Both of those items would have certain days and hours that they'd be restricted to, but trying to loosen that up a little bit. Also, as you know, we want to try to make that zone more pedestrian-friendly and bicycle-friendly. We'll be recommending to you a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit in the residential areas of that zone. I detect Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
That's for later. That's for later.
I'm okay.
That'll be, and the other thing will be maybe a little, wherever we can, a little different street section than we might use. Instead of having the bike lane be nothing more than a painted stripe on the pavement, provide a physical separation between the automobile lanes and the bicycle lanes, possibly even shared use paths for bicycle pedestrians, because the surveys show that people are much more likely to bicycle, use their bikes if they are protected by more than just a paint stripe. So that'll be coming to you. And part of what we hope with, and have talked about in the Planning Commission with this concept plan area, is maybe this can be a lab area where we can try these ideas, see how they work, and see how they might apply elsewhere in the city. A little bit about our goals for 2020. We plan to hold joint meetings with the Historic Review Board, the Transportation Advisory Committee, Natural Resources Committee, and the CIC. Toward the end of next year, we'll be working on our suggestions to you as you go into your goal-setting process for the next biennium. The big goal, the big project that's on the horizon for us, for staff and for the Planning Commission is a revision to our comprehensive plan. We've received 2 grants with the hard work of our staff and with the money that you budgeted, working on getting the funding together. The staff is currently working on refining the scope of work for that project so that we can start early in 2020. The first thing will be a substantial community vision process with the hope that we can get more public input than we ever have been able to before, including trying to reach out to groups and individuals that don't normally take part in our process. Once that community vision document is together, then that will inform what goes into our comprehensive plan. And with a plan to complete the comprehensive plan by winter of 2021. I'm going to close with it's sort of a goal, but it's probably more of a wish, and it's a concern, and I don't know that I have a whole lot of suggestions to offer. But I can tell you that on the Planning Commission, we feel starved for public input. More often than not, the only public input that we have seen in the packets that were presented is a spreadsheet showing the people who attended the meeting. Rarely any comment from the neighborhood association, rarely any public comment, either written or in person. And I think that's a shame. And it's really my wish and the Planning Commission's wish that we can work on that. One tiny thing that we did, because people have to know what's going on before they can get involved. If you go to the home page of the city website now, there's a button right on the home page that says development projects. Those used to be buried. The statistics show that people drop out very quickly if they can't find what they want on a website. So now right on the home page, there's a button for development projects. We would love to find a way to get the CICs and the neighborhood associations more involved. I know you're going to hear from Amy in a couple of minutes here. But that basically is my presentation. It's been a fun year. It's enjoyable. We will have 1 new member joining us next year. It's the first of the year instead of 4. So that should make the transition a little smoother, and we'll move on ahead. And unless there's any questions.
Questions, anybody? Well, thank to you and the rest of the Planning Commission for your service. I've always said that was the one place I would never serve, so. Thank
So
you.
you're missing out on all the fun.
All right, lastly, we have the annual update from the CIC. Ms. Wilhite.
I'll get Laura to introduce me.
No.
I figure I'm going to go real quick because you've heard a lot from me. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. 2019 has been an interesting year. I know that Mike said that about the Planning Commission, but for the CIC, I think I've missed more meetings this year than I've missed the entire, at least 7 years that I've been the chair. So I definitely can feel the lack of attendance. Partially, I take that to heart as my fault. Because sometimes when your leader's not there, it makes a difference. And so between my knee surgery and other personal things this year, it's been a rough year. So onward and upward we go. And I'll talk about our 2020, some of our desires in just a minute. But as far as 2019 goes, we've had lots of presentations from different departments within the city. That's been helpful. One of the things I have done, I reached out to the Oregon State Extension Service and had them come and do a presentation. Michael Bondi, it was very interesting. I think there's a lot of things that the citizens don't realize that we have available right here in our city, so he came and did a presentation. Also, a number of years ago, for a long time, the chamber was actually part of the CIC. They were actually a voting member. Then they became just a sitting member and then eventually went away. So I reached out to their past chair and had him come back, do a presentation. We were just getting in the process of bringing that back, and then he left and it kind of fell through the cracks. So that is something that I personally would like to see come back, because I think that they have, another place of input to find out what's going on in the city so that we can all work together. We don't have all these different ways that you have to find out what's happening. It'd be nice if we can all cooperate together. We also started to hear some land use issues for some of our inactive neighborhoods. So it's exciting not that they're inactive, but it's exciting to see development happening again. It's been kind of slow out in some of those neighborhoods. We've heard from Metro, we've heard from ODOT about the tunnel. There was a lot of work on 99 that happened, and I think it was helpful to have, and nice of them to come and present to us. For 2020, we already have some land use issues that will be coming before us. I agree with Mike that it would be nice if we had more input from the neighborhoods. I, for one, was trying to find a project the other day, didn't know that I needed to look up the word development. So it might be right on the homepage, but I didn't know that's what it was, so just to let you know. Yeah, if I don't know, and I try to think that I'm pretty in the know, that some people might not know what that means, that's where you go to find out what public notices are out there. I would like to see, one of the things that we are doing, we'll be working on to hopefully increase participation, is updating our bylaws and the code revisions that we'll be bringing back to you. I think that'll be a positive change. I have some great ideas for sponsoring some community events, and I will end this year being my last year. I think they've tried every way possible to keep me on as chair at least 7 years, so it's time to let someone else do that so I can help push from behind the scenes. But I have some great ideas. The CIC, we've always wanted to partner and get out there, and I think that that's something it's kind of fallen through too, that we shouldn't just be a Monday night meeting once a month. We need to be out there, and it's not enough just to be a national night out, and we need to actually get out there. And so if we can sponsor some events, then I think that will help, that people won't be as intimidated. We also have the ongoing desire to increase participation at the CIC and the neighborhoods, and instead of constantly just being told, let's look at the public involvement plan, that's not helpful. It's been the same ideas over and over. We're recreating the wheels. I think that it's a desire of the commission. I know it's a desire of a planning commission. You hear it all the time. What can we do? We've reached out to other cities trying to figure it out. So I think we're going to have to get outside the box, and I think it's time for us to go to the people instead of expecting the people to come to us. So hopefully the CIC will be able to do that this year. And that's what I have. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you. Well, Amy, thanks for your service.
Thank you.
We certainly appreciate it, and I know it's like herding cats at the CIC, so, I appreciate talking to you to get done.
Thanks.
I do have one question for you. So we supported the amendments that you wanted to the bylaws. Is that proceeding?
Yes,
I understand
at our
that it
last
is.
meeting, we formed a committee that will be meeting off-site to get those presented so we can bring them back to the CIC to approve, and then we'll be bringing them to you first part of the year.
Good, thank you for doing that.
Okay. So we're on citizen comment. Do we have anybody? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak on something other than an agenda item? Seeing none, move on. Everybody okay with the agenda?
I would like to see item number, 19722 go with the other item that's on the regular agenda, and since I think they go together. Dealing with the Willamette Falls locks.
8A?
Yeah.
Yes.
8A.
Yes, I'd like to see it combined with 8A.
I said 7G and 8A.
8A and what?
7G.
Oh, 7G, sorry.
7G and 8A.
Oh, well, 8A is on the consent agenda. I didn't know you wanted.
I'd like both of those to be done together under 7G.
Okay, we can do that. All right, then we'll move on. Public hearings, we have 6A is 19-723, first reading of ordinance number 19-1014, adopting the stormwater master plan as ancillary to the comprehensive plan, GLUA, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Wade?
Thank you very much. For this item, we have two related items on 6A and 6B, and so what we're going to do is do a presentation on both because they're so related. One is the stormwater master plan and one is the stormwater design standards as well. And so what we would recommend from the City Commission is for us to do one presentation, hear testimony on both items, and then deliberate on both items, but yet you'll vote on each item individually if that's okay. We feel like it'll be a little bit cleaner. With that, we have Christina Robertson Gardner, Senior Planner at the City, that's going to do the introduction for you.
Thank you, Laura. So this is a continuation from the public hearing heard on November 6th. In response to the comments heard in the mayor's request, staff sent out an invitation to Mr. Nacita, Mr. Buss, Mr. Edgar, and Mr. Sanford, who's the counsel for Northwest Environmental Defense Center, and staff met with these gentlemen on December 3rd. You have a summary of those minutes attached to your agenda that'll be entered in the record today. Those were forwarded to all the participants, and there was no additional revisions recommended. I know there's also been some additional items submitted to Katie this evening. One is an email from Jesse Buss. Is there anything else so far today?
No, and Jesse also brought a hard copy, and the commission has it. Nice.
From the Northwest.
Oh, and I know we have some public comment, and that will be entered in the record at the time of public comment. So those are two have been entered in the record right now.
So where are the minutes?
So they should be
I'm sorry, where are the what?
The minutes from the December 3rd meeting?
Sure, it's under your agenda item, it should say.
Your documents.
Whoops, not that one.
Yeah, I just pulled it up.
It's the one that says exhibit staff letter dated December 3rd, 2019, and meeting notes.
So I took the minutes for those, and the concerns were both technical and legal. So this evening, I'm going to have Mr. Lewis speak about some of the technical issues discussed at the meeting, and then he will hand it off to Carrie Richter, who will do a legal roundup of the issues. I'm available for any questions.
Great. So I've been thinking and preparing for this meeting. I wrote my comments, and I think because of kind of the content and the details associated with that, I'm gonna try to speak to you, but read these comments to you as well. So just go and understand that. So I guess the other thing I want to emphasize is I know Christina mentioned it, but we would like to move forward with the recommended action. We think the meeting that we had was good, and I'll go into that. Didn't see strong reason to hold up what we're asking you to do. So, but we'll talk about that in much more detail, but just our recommended action is still what we're asking for. The meeting was held on December 3rd, and it was something we were interested and excited to have on hand. On one hand, the timing of the feedback and some of the tone of the feedback was unexpected. We also appreciated the community interest in stormwater. We don't get a lot of community interest in stormwater, so this was a surprise, and I think a good surprise. We had what I thought was an excellent meeting. We met with Jim Nacita and Jesse Buss and Paul Edgar, all kind of concerned citizens. Jonah Stafford with the Northwest Environmental Defense Center was also in the meeting. We also had some strong internal interest to meet with this group, including Laura Turway, Carrie Richter, Josh Wheeler, Christina Robertson Gardner, and Alyssa Maxwell, who's in the audience and you've heard from with Brown and Caldwell. The intent of the meeting was to share backgrounds and perspectives on stormwater management, to be available to hear the related concerns, and if time allowed, to provide clarity to those things that could be easily addressed. We scheduled the meeting for 1 hour and 15 minutes, and our discussion lasted for over 2 hours. I understand the meeting summary notes have been submitted to you. I learned some good things about the group. First of all, attorneys and engineers both care about the environment and can communicate without an interpreter.
You sure about that?
Well, yeah, it seemed that way anyway. It seemed that way. We all had common interests in protection of water quality, and most of us have years of experience working on some element of water quality protection. It was clear early on that if there was a gap in the room, it was related to the understanding of solutions that come from technical or applied field practices and solutions versus those that come from land use framework and what conditions of approval are applied to new development. We seem to have general agreement that the technical or best management practices that are covered under the city's stormwater management program were not at issue, but rather or not whether the city should adopt state land use goals as standards. Specific state land use goals that were discussed were goals 2, 5, 6, and 13. Another standard that we discussed at some length was Oregon Administrative Rule 340, Division 41. These rules constitute Oregon's water quality standards. Carrie has provided a memorandum addressing the main concerns that we heard and understand to be at issue, and she has also modified the staff findings to best articulate how the Stormwater Master Plan and Stormwater Standards either address the rules or why the rules are not applicable to these decisions. She can and will explain this much better than I will, so I'm not going to try to do that. But aside from the land use rules, there were a few clarifications that need to be highlighted. Scope of the decisions we need from you tonight is narrow but critical. The Stormwater Master Plan prioritizes projects that will have the greatest chance of improving stormwater quality. The plan makes grant monies possible to fund those projects and will be the basis for setting new rates to pay for the proposed improvements. The amendments to the standards are only to provide clear direction and increase efficiency for property owners, design consultants, and staff when it comes to applying those requirements. Each of us in the meeting seem to agree that these amendments will have a positive impact on water quality in Oregon City. Clarifications on what the city is already doing to manage stormwater in Oregon City seem to be needed in the meeting, and we didn't have time to go through all of that, but I wanted to emphasize to all of you the amount of things that we do for stormwater. And I'm not talking the basics or in the field, but I'm just some of the things that we do. First of all, Oregon City is compliant with state land use goals and the Oregon Administrative Water Quality Rules because we have a history of compliance with our National Pollutant Discharge and Elimination System permit. This compliance includes a stormwater management plan. That's different than the stormwater master plan. A stormwater management plan, which is published, and we use that regularly, and which, by the way, includes requirements that the city adopt a stormwater master plan and update design standards. That's a requirement of the stormwater master plan, which is a requirement of the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. We have a monitoring plan which includes coordinated effort with other co-permittees in Clackamas County. This work is an effective use of limited funds, using a cross-section of staff with a high regard for environmental preservation and improved stormwater quality. So our plan is jointly coordinated with Clackamas County so that we're not duplicating services. We've got a large range of sites across the county and a large range of pollutants and stormwater constituents that we monitor and sample, monitor, and analyze. We have an implementation plan and closely manage measures to control erosion and sedimentation from construction sites. We have completed a variety of stream assessments and implementations plans, all of which is supported with documents published on the city's website. And we produce reports to DEQ by the permit annually. I will just say, in that category, seldom do we see community comment, despite the fact that we publish that, we post it on our website, we do a lot of outreach via the trail news. And so I feel like we've got a strong program with regard to environmental compliance with our stormwater quality standards and the NPDES permit. Beyond land use goals, the comments we heard from our concerned citizens were focused on wanting the city to do more. And let me explain why tonight staff is not recommending these additional amendments, keeping in mind the narrow and limited project scope. Approval of a stormwater master plan and approval of stormwater standards, or update to our stormwater standards. One of the things we heard was you need to update the city's Goal 5 inventory. This is the list of streams and waterways and condition analysis for the same. We can discuss updating the inventory during the comprehensive plan update, but this ask is beyond the scope of the work before you today. Add CIP projects, and there were 3 specific ones that were listed. The Kenemo Waterworks, which is something that we've heard a lot about, both in email and through public testimony from Mr. Edgar. It's the waterworks in Kenema near 5th and Miller Street. And there's a downstream conveyance system there that was installed. I've looked back at historic photos. I can't figure out when it was installed, but well before my time. And there's a question about that. It's a privately built by, I don't know who exactly, but when the time comes for redevelopment, we would see, and we would expect to see conditions that would improve that project. A Singer Falls Hydroelectric Project. This is an idea that Mr. Nacita had that was using, and I don't think he was, well, he mentioned that project, but it was general across the city, using stormwater and the hydraulic head associated with stormwater to generate power and use that. And there is a study, and I'll talk more about that under innovation that's out there, but that was one of them. And then the other one was converting the pipe system through the upper yard of the Public Works Department and converting that to an open channel system, okay? Making...
where is this?
So this is the runoff that runs through Waterboard Park, collects near the backside of the armory in a swale or ditch area there, and then is collected in a pipe and is piped to really the edge of our Center Street yard and comes down the reservoir in kind of a waterfall kind of fashion. So if you've been in our yard, you know where the waterfall is.
So it's not a stream?
It's not a stream. It's a drainage way that has been over the years piped. I think it was piped probably when they built the armory. So the idea would be to open that up to a open channel. Making these, and so our thoughts are making these improvements in these areas may have merit and would likely be a requirement of future development. However, the list of projects in the master plan is extensive and in areas unlikely to be funded by new or redevelopment. So there are the kinds of projects that we, many of them exist in the McLaughlin neighborhood where there's existing development, and we're trying to figure out how, we think that's going to be a heavy lift anyway, just because of the cost of those projects. There was a mention of a treatment train, which we're familiar with. It basically requires treatment alternatives or treatment options to be done in a series as opposed to just one-offs. And so this idea, the idea is that new development builds a series of multiple treatment systems, each further cleaning or polishing the stormwater before it gets to, the larger water body. this firm, Treatment Train, is a term that's familiar in the industry. Industry is testing and trying these ideas. We actually have this language included in our standards today. So I guess it is a strategy to deal with treatment of pollutants. Based on my experience, treatment trains that work are often complicated, susceptible to failure, costly, and the public infrastructure can become unruly to manage because they're challenging. Generally, this kind of program only works when you have private owners who are passionate about owning and maintaining these kinds of systems over the long term. There's progress being made, and our standards allow for this new train kind of innovation if suggested by the developer. The other thing was require greater citywide or property owner pre or post approval monitoring. The city, as I mentioned before, already monitors stormwater. Regional monitoring plans are in place and require sampling, monitoring, and evaluation of a long list of pollutants in stormwater. I guess there's a question, maybe, are we monitoring enough sites, sampling for enough pollutants, stormwater constituents? Regional scientists say yes, and our regulatory oversight folks say yes. Innovation was another thing, and I think this, in my mind, is more of that, generating power from a stormwater column. We did some consideration of this in 2009. I think Commissioner Nocita offered the 2009 report. It's definitely an interesting idea. The plan didn't recommend anything in Oregon City, but what it did kind of focus on is maybe there was some potential for drinking water systems where we have a high degree of pressure. It's an enclosed system. There may be opportunities in that in the future. But right now, it wasn't recommended in the 2009 study. We don't know of any agencies that are using this in a productive way, but it definitely has some innovative concepts. But I guess my thinking there is it's when it comes to spending city resources on innovation, I typically think this should be done on low risk kinds of projects. I don't know that our commission has been, we haven't brought this to you, but I kind of wonder if we did bring it to you, how much you would support that idea, not certain about what the payoffs would be. Greater public engagement and involvement in our stormwater management plans and programs. I agree, there's probably always room for improvement on that. We do a fair amount of public outreach through the trail news articles that we do, through our annual reports, through the publication that we have that's now, it comes in the form of a 3x5 card at the direction of the commission, but it gives you a link to our water quality report online. So, and we're always trying to get the message out about how property owners can better improve water quality. But it is, I think that we're always going to strive with that. We've tried it on a regional level with, messaging through TV commercials and, through other means. But I think there's always a way that we can get better. So sure, we'd like to do more of that. So again, as I said before, the comments received also focused on the legal and land use side, including the language for Goal 6, or the specific water quality discharge requirement as set forth in the administrative rules as approval criteria. We had Alyssa there with Brown and Caldwell, and after the meeting, we asked, can you look back with all the clientele that you work with and all the conversations and meetings, regional meetings that they attend about some of these issues, and whether or not other agencies are including the specific reference to the state land use goals or Oregon Administrative Rule 340 Division 41. And the answer to that is No, they don't. So we don't think we should either. And Carrie has much better commentary on that than I do. So I'm done. Thanks for your listening.
Ms. Richter.
Quickly, much more quickly than an 8-page memo that I called a summary. So as John said, the project scope was narrow, and certainly the city could legally do more if it should decide to, but John prioritized these tasks as having the sort of greatest impact and responding to some specific deficiencies, and so that was what we went forward with. There are some legal reasons why it doesn't make sense to include the regulatory amendments that the concerned citizens have identified. The first reason is sort of a planning structure one that has to do with the fact that the statewide land use goals are broad and vague and open-ended so that they can be implemented at the local level in specific ways that meet specific local government objectives. And the city in this case has identified stormwater design standards that specify what the details are for a rain garden, how big it has to be and how deep it has to be and how much water it has to store, and when you have to use porous pavement and when you don't. And so rather than use a standard like don't pollute, we have given developers greater guidance by identifying specifically what they have to do in order to what we believe implement Goal 6 and address the water quality standards. So that is the way that we believe we have implemented the state and federal standards. And DEQ and DLCD have acknowledged that scheme many times before, and we are making sort of very modest clarifying changes to those standards. And we believe that that complies with what Goal 6 requires. To adopt the language of Goal 6 specifically, or to adopt the water quality standards of OAR 34041, would be to impose on property owners pre- and post-monitoring of their flows at the time they get development approval and into the future. And just so you have an idea of the types of things that the administrative role requires you to test: biocriteria, dissolved oxygen, phytoplankton, pH, temperature, total dissolved gas, total dissolved solid, toxic substances, and turbidity. So all of those things would have to be tested both at the time development occurred, so you'd know what the quality of the stormwater was coming onto property, then you'd have to test it before as it left the property to know what the quality of it was at that time. And then we'd have to monitor it in perpetuity so that we'd make sure that we were holding every property owner accountable, because all that stormwater comes into the municipal system. And it's that cumbersome and sort of intermixed nature of stormwater systems that has led to DEQ saying, don't do that, get an MS4 permit pursuant to a different set of administrative rules, Division 45, which says if you comply with your NPDES permit, you are in compliance with the applicable state standards. That is a different series of rules. That it operates our permit. You comply with that, you're good. And that is what we were operating under. And to do otherwise, I think would subject development to additional cost. It would subject the city to the enforcement and the rigors of doing that. And then you also have, you know, the sort of overall, would at the end of the day the water quality be any better? I'm not sure that it would.
So the short version is, are we meeting the legal obligation of the state by these two sections?
Yes, and I've included revised findings that respond to those the concerns that have been raised.
Okay, anything else? Then we're gonna open the public hearing. And I have Mr. Buss and Mr. Sanford, I believe.
Who should go first?
Jonas Sanford. I'm the staff attorney for the Northwest Environmental Defense Center. I'd like to specifically address the master plan and the design standards specifically as they relate to statewide planning goal 6. I greatly appreciate the city staff's time hearing us out on this issue. I've read the revised staff report and Ms. Richter's memo. Unfortunately, I believe it's clear that as written, the proposed plans do not comply with Goal 6. Goal 6 requires that all future development, when combined with discharges from existing development, not threaten to violate or violate applicable state and federal standards, rules, and statutes. In my view, there's a misunderstanding here about what exactly are the applicable standards, rules, and statutes. As you know, DEQ has issued an NPDES permit that covers Oregon City's stormwater discharges. This MS4 permit contains many important conditions, many important requirements, but as Ms. Richter said, it does not specifically require compliance with state water quality standards. Planning Goal 6 explicitly does require compliance with these standards, which are found at OAR 340-041. So while compliance with the MS4 permit is certainly necessary to comply with Goal 6, it is not sufficient. To be sufficient, compliance with Goal 6 requires that Oregon City comply with all state water quality standards. These are the applicable standards for water quality that are referenced in the Goal 6 text. Next, contrary to the staff report, the existing comprehensive plan does not require compliance with state water quality standards. I will add here, though, that if there is certainty, as there seems to be, that the city's stormwater management is complying with all these standards, then I don't believe it would be a controversial measure to include language in these documents affirming that discharges would in fact comply with water quality standards. And last, I'd just like to emphasize that compliance with Goal 6 for these plans, in my view, doesn't require a burdensome amendment process to these documents and to these plans. As we told city staff a couple weeks ago, all that's necessary, in my view, for compliance with Goal 6 is some new language stating that discharges will comply with state water quality standards and referencing OAR 340-041. Thank you.
Thank you. Russ?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Yeah, forgive me, I'm a little under the weather, so I'm not going to be my normal bubbly self as I am before you, typically. So, I'm a resident of Oregon City. I'm not here representing anybody. I just have personal thoughts here. I agree with Mr. Sanford. I have to say the minutes that Christina prepared, I apologize. I have not had time to review them, so I can't endorse the minutes from our December 3rd meeting or not. Can't really comment on those. But I will say I think the key issue here is the NPDES permit that keeps getting brought up is federal. It is not the same thing as the state water quality standards. You've got NPDES that's under the Clean Water Act. It's a federal statute. And then you have OAR 340-041. Those are the state standards. They are not the same. And as far as I can tell, we don't have any way of requiring compliance with those state water quality standards. We certainly don't have monitoring for those. As far as I know, we don't have data for those. But the plain language of Goal 6 says all waste and process discharges, including stormwater, from future development, when combined with such discharges from existing developments, shall not threaten to violate or actually violate applicable state or federal environmental quality statutes. Now, I know we've had our comprehensive plan approved by the land use folks in the past, but again, as far as I know, no one raised this issue at that point, so it hasn't really been decided. You know, this may be the first time that someone's pointed out, hey, this goal clearly requires that you comply with state water quality standards, we should do that. I want to point out that in the staff report and memo from Ms. Richter, there's an argument made that, oh, we already require compliance with OAR 340-041, but we just don't. There's no evidence that we actually require that compliance. But if staff thinks we already require it, then why not make it explicit in the Stormwater Master Plan and the standards? A couple specific water quality standards that are Oregon specific and not MPDES specific for municipalities are temperature, that's under OAR 340-041-0028. Basically, that's hot water coming off of hot parking lots, what that means. Copper, zinc, lead, other toxics, petroleum, hydrocarbons, under OAR 340-041-0033. I don't think we require compliance with those right now, but those are our state standards. And why wouldn't we set ourselves the goal and the policy and the requirement to achieve those standards? If we're going to allow new development and not require compliance with the standards, it's a guarantee that we're going to continually increase the pollutant load in the streams, unless we adopt a policy otherwise.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
If I may, I think both these gentlemen bring some factual information that I'd like clarified. I'd like them to remain seated if the chair would so allow to answer some specific questions.
Sure.
So, Mr. Sanford, in your opinion, we need the addition of just language that says that the city of Oregon City would comply with all state water quality standards? That needs to be part of our verbiage?
That's right, yeah. And in my view, that would be sufficient to comply with Goal 6 at this stage.
And
To be fair, Ms. Richter, what do you say about that?
I say that the city has an obligation to adopt clear and objective standards to be applicable to development, and the obligation to comply with all state and federal standards as stated just now is not clear and objective. So we could adopt it, but we could not apply it to any residential development because it is not clear and objective. So if we want to have specific state water quality standards in our regulations, they have to be clear and objective.
Okay.
so in
And that's why we went through all the code amendments for equitable housing, was to make our code clear and objective. That was the goal, and so that's my concern.
So is your statement such that to the extent that those standards are defined, we currently meet them?
I think I think that the city has attempted to satisfy the state water quality standards by identifying stormwater solutions that are clear and objective. Rain gardens shall be this big, and they shall be this deep, and they shall have this kind of soil.
So both these gentlemen before us say if we say we're meeting them, why not put the verbiage in there? But my question back to Mr. Sanford, are you aware in your professional experience of any other municipalities who have this verbiage in their standards and who are in fact can demonstrate that they are meeting state standards?
I'm not familiar one way or the other. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's just an interesting summation. I mean, I'm reading both summations, Ms. Richter's, Mr. Buss's, Mr. Sanford's, and, reviewing the meeting, there's questions of fact and questions of law. And I wanted to make sure the gentleman had the opportunity to answer any questions posed. I'm totally not comfortable with to give an answer or decision, but I wanted all parties to have the ability to elaborate upon their answer.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
May I respond to that, Commissioner?
Please do. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Technically speaking, we don't have conversations with folks who testify. So the commissioner had an opportunity to ask you a couple questions. He got his answers. Thanks for your time.
Well, for the record, I didn't get to respond to those questions, but I'll go back to my seat. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So, nobody else is here to testify, then I'm gonna close the
I have a
public,
question for staff.
after I close the public hearing.
Okay.
So I'll close the public hearing, Commissioner McGriff.
Carrie, I'm not clear on how the standards are not, that they're speaking of how they are not clear and objective. Do they lack specificity to say down to the gnat's eye about what you have to do? Or are you saying that they're broad and say you must meet this, but they don't say how?
Well, the language of Goal 6 says, if we were to write this into the code, for example, development shall not threaten to violate or violate applicable state and federal environmental quality statutes. It's not clear which statutes or rules we're talking about, which ones are the applicable ones. That's not clear and objective. So as of right now, I don't think that the Goal 6 reference to the applicable state and federal environmental quality statutes in the language of Goal 6 refers to OAR 34041, the water quality standards that we've heard testimony should be incorporated. I don't think those are the applicable standards. I think the applicable standards are in Division 45, which authorizes the city to have a municipal discharge permit and to collect stormwater and to run the stormwater through its discharge permit. I don't think that those biosolid pH temperature standards apply. And I think that LUBA ruled on that specific question when it evaluated the Beaver Creek Concept Plan in 2007.
Question, anybody else? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner McGriff. I had the same exact question. Has the stormwater master plan in a previous version been submitted as an amendment to a comp plan for review by DLCD by itself outside of a comp plan review? Like,
I don't know the answer to that. The Stormwater Master Plan has been in existence since 2007, so I'd be pretty surprised.
No, 1988.
1988.
So I think.
So it hasn't been updated since
I think the
1988.
answer to that is no. We've done a couple of basin plans, and whether that or not they were amended to the comp plan, I don't believe so. They've just been out there as plans that we've implemented, but I don't know how they were. I don't recall how they were adopted. But our current stormwater master plan is 1988.
so did you have anyone from DLCD look at this current version of the stormwater master plan to see if they thought and gave an opinion back as to whether or not they thought it would be compliant with Goal 6?
We didn't. My recollect is there was a group that we sent it to. I can't.
So we did give DLCD notice of this proposed plan as part of this legislative proceeding, and we did not get any response back.
I will add that in 1988, we did submit the stormwater master plan to the Department of Land Conservation and Development separately, along with all the other plan documents. And as I recall, we went through this several times because we had periodic review during the time I worked for the city. We did get comments back at that time, but whether we've done that since then, and while I was on the Planning Commission, I'm not aware of that.
So the request to add language specifically calling out OAR 340 and Division 41, it sounds like there's just a discrepancy between whether or not two lawyers, you and some those in the audience, believe that that's the applicable state standard, right? Is that?
Well, I mean, I think that shows that they're not clear and objective. I mean, a clear and objective standard is one that is quantifiable, 6 feet. And these standards, even if I would accept the fact that Chapter 340, Division 41 is an applicable state standard, these standards aren't clear and objective. These standards have anti-degradation standards, and what it means for that to be satisfied So we're gonna have every property owner coming in and making a showing that their development will not contravene the anti-degradation standard. And Alyssa would know better than I what it takes to satisfy that, but it's complicated. And that's, I mean, this is part of the reason why DEQ, and it's directed to the rules that follow. I'll read the preface of 340-41. The rules that follow together with the applicable laws of the state of Oregon apply to the Department of Environmental Quality Commission. I mean, and they'll have a management plan. So it's just not intended, these rules aren't intended for this purpose. If they were suitable for this purpose, there'd be jurisdictions all over the state that would have done this. If it were as simple as these.
That was going to be my point, is that it's not just two attorneys here. This conversation about state land use goals has been a long-standing conversation amongst multiple agencies with a lot more firepower than Oregon City, and they're still not including that language in their stormwater master plans or stormwater design standards. So,
One question for Ms. Richter. I'd like to direct, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I understand why you wouldn't include language from goal 6. That is just, it's goal language and it is not clear and objective. My questions around the OAR, I think have been answered. I would feel more comfortable, moving forward with the recommendation to make some modifications if there were another jurisdiction or some other jurisdiction that, where had already taken this up and thought that it was appropriate. So I'm gonna settle it there.
That sort of serves my question. I was going to ask Ms. Richter the same question I asked Mr. Sanford. In your legal practice, are you aware of other jurisdictions that have written this language in and state they're complying with this goal 6 of the state?
No. And in fact, this argument, nearly identical argument, was raised by challengers to the Beaver Creek Concept Plan in 2007, and LUBA said, we do not have to include these state water quality standards in the plan to comply with goal 6.
Okay.
And the Court of Appeals affirmed LUBA's decision on that point.
Can I make one more comment?
Sure.
To circle back to some of the other comments that were made about updating our inventory as part of the comp plan, and also updating chapter 6 to maybe make that chapter a more robust alignment with goal 6 language. I think both of those, we should revisit those. I think these comments are warranted, and something when we do the comp plan update, I certainly hope that that's part of that chapter's review and revision, because I think they would be good things for us.
Commissioner Griff.
Yes, I have a question for Laura Turway. Where are we on the review for the Kenema Waterworks? As I recall, that was a specific request by the Planning Commission as I was leaving, and my understanding is that you and your staff have been working on that. And I would like it just to be said for the record where we are on that particular process, because the city has identified it as something that needs to get done, and I know you've been working on it. I just want that to be out there.
The planning department is currently working on applying a natural resource overlay district and a associated buffer to the wetland on the Cottage Homes site, not at Kenema Waterworks. It's right below it. So it feeds that wetland. But yeah, we're in the process now. You should be getting a notice maybe this week, actually.
I just wanted it for the record because I know we have been working on it. It has not been neglected, and I wanted to give staff some credit for working on that particular project, because it is important. It was identified in the National Register nomination as being a significant resource in the Kenema National Register District, and I think that this will assuage any negative comments about the fact that we're not working on it, because we are, and it's going to be completed very soon. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Then is there a motion? We're going to take 6A first.
I'll make a motion to approve 19-723 first reading ordinance number 19-1014, adopting the stormwater master plan as an ancillary to the comprehensive plan.
Second. Ms. Richter.
Ordinance number 19-1014, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City adopting the Stormwater Master Plan as an ancillary document to the comprehensive plan.
Call roll.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
I'm going to vote aye, but I just wanted to make it clear that these comments are on the record and that we need to be very aware as a city that these items have been raised and we need to respond appropriately to our community.
Commissioner Rachel Lyle Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Well, aye with similar comments to Commissioner McGriff.
Mayor Dan Holliday.
Aye, motion carries. So 6B?
Thank you very much. In this item, the Planning Division received an application for geologic hazards. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
No.
no, you're
Skipping.
the second
My
half of the
apologies.
earlier conversation, so.
6B,
I'm so excited.
I know.
Calm down.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve first reading of ordinance number 19-1015, adopting Public Works stormwater and grading design standards.
Ms. Richter? Oh, sorry.
Second.
Yeah, Ms. Richter.
Ordinance number 19-1015, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City adopting Public Works stormwater and grading design standards.
Call roll.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
I will vote aye again for the same reasons that we need to keep our eye on this and we can always set the bar higher and let's go there.
Commissioner Rachel Lyle Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mayor Dan Holliday.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, moving on. PC 19-142, consideration of City Commission review of Forest Edge Apartment Stabilization Improvement Projects. Is this a public hearing?
No.
I'll tell you a little bit more about it. But no, you don't have to do your readings.
Okay, so they just put it in the wrong spot?
One second.
It appeared to be just a question of whether we want
Public hearings.
It's a public hearing.
Okay.
It's a public hearing, but it's not a land use.
It's not a land use, we're not asking for a land use decision.
Okay.
We're asking for
All right.
clarification
So
of whether to pull this up.
let's hear the staff report, then I'll open the public hearing.
All right. So we're hoping that you don't open the public hearing at all for tonight. The Planning Division received application for a geologic hazards and natural resource overlay district and a site plan design review to do some work at Forest Edge Apartments. The applicant informed you of this work as well as the city departments at the last meeting on December 4th. And it sounded like there was some concern that the city commission may want to pull up this item. It is a type 2 land use application, and so there is no public hearing, but there is an avenue for public comment and feedback to see how the approval criteria are being met. Tonight is just to ask the commission if you would like to pull it up or not. So we don't want to talk about any of the merits of the application at all, just simply answer the question because it seems that you may want to pull it up. Do you in fact want to hear that application? If you do want to hear the application, we will renotice it and we can do a hearing on January 15th. We will post signs on the property, mail notices to neighbors, and then put it on our website and do various notice things that we do.
I'm confused how you could have gotten, not understood that that's what we wanted it from the last meeting.
So this is
I
the
thought we were
venue
all
for you to
pretty
make
clear.
a decision. So since you
We were in a work session.
You were in a work session.
Oh.
And so this-
Yeah, but still, I mean,
You have to pull it up, and so this
Yes,
is your
it has to be.
All right, we
avenue
wanna
to
pull it
pull it up.
so is there a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I'll make that motion to pull that specific piece of ordinance up to us for review.
And I just want to, sorry,
I'll second it so we can have discussion.
sorry. I just want to clarify that calling it up, we're going to have a de novo hearing and any participants will be allowed to participate and that will be part of the notice. I think that's important because we don't know where it's going to go. So ordinarily, a type 2 decision on appeal is limited to the record that was developed below, and we don't want to do that here. So I just want, if you want to do something different than de novo, tell us, because we're working under a de novo instruction.
So you want to explain de novo?
Yes.
For those of us who don't speak Latin?
Of new, we're like new,
Okay.
like starting over.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there anybody wish to talk about this?
I'd like to ask the city manager a question, please.
Go ahead.
Please. You have some concerns. I can see your face. So what is it you'd like to say to help us?
I don't have any concerns. I think it's a decision for the commission if they'd like to pull this up or not. And Ms. Richter was just clarifying that it'll be, anyone can participate, anybody can bring new evidence.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question then.
Sure.
Since we're only having one meeting in January at this point, do we have to have it on that meeting?
We do, because we have 120 days to process.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. I just don't want that meeting to get jammed up. And this will have the potential to do that.
Well, I think it's clear that given the location and the things that happened down there in 2015 and the rather dubious way that this development was approved in the first place.
Let's not get too into the merits.
Because we don't want to get in trouble.
Or prejudge the application.
We're already in trouble.
So there's a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Question.
Call a roll, please.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Commissioner Rachel Lau Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mayor Dan Holliday.
Aye. Item 6D, 19698, real estate contract for sale of Oregon City Police Department property located at 320 Warner Milne. Chief Clear.
Acting Chief and the Commission.
Well, you should just throw you under the bus on this one.
Yeah, I really do. I can help the captain out there. The Oregon City Police Municipal Code and Code Enforcement Departments currently operate in the building located at 320 Warden Millie Road, which was purchased by the city of Oregon City in the 1980s. Construction of a new public safety facility for the above-mentioned departments is underway at the site at the old Mount Pleasant School, 1232 Lynn Avenue, with a targeted completion date of September 2020. Total proceeds from the sale of the current property are necessary to pay for the new constructed budget. In 2016, the city increased an appraisal of the property for $2.4 million. In 2019, a new appraisal was completed for the property and it appraised out at $3.125 million. Before it was listed, we had several inquiries. We decided to list the property for sale by owner to potentially save money that would be paid in commission to a broker. The city commission was aware of this proposed strategy and supported it at the time. In addition to the purchase price, the solicitation requested terms which the current city staff would lease back the building from the purchaser until the new construction was completed. We listed the property for sale on August 2nd, 2019 via public notice through the Daily Journal of Commerce and the Oregon City Bid Management site. The listing remained open until October 4th, 2019. We did not receive any bids submitted for the property. After the close of the bid deadline, F&F Structures offered the city a purchase price that ranged between $2.4 million and $2.9 million, dependent on additional appraisals. The offer provided that the city would be able to remain in the current building rent-free until the new building was completed. The city counter-offered with a purchase price of $2.8 million. F&F Structures accepted the counter with one exception, asking for an additional 30 days for a total of 120 days to complete the due diligence time. Prior to receiving this offer, the city was in the process of hiring a broker to find a buyer for the property. This would have required the city to pay approximately 4 to 5% in commission. The ability to remain in the facility until October 30th, 2020 rent-free saves approximately $14,000 per month. Staff is requesting authorization for the city manager to execute the contract with F&F Structures for the sale of the Oregon City Police Department property located at 320 Warden Millie Road, tax lot 32E 05C 201 and 32E 5C 500.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So first off, I do not have any questions about the sales agreement. I think there have been some questions in the community about the process. And therefore, I want to be clear, I'm not questioning the actions that we took, our decisions, our counteroffer, and the sales agreement. I think it's all good. My questions are, just for clarity purposes, about our process. And the comments about the ad placed in the Daily Journal of Commerce that promised confidentiality. That's the comment that we received as a commission public comment. So I'm asking you or others, can you comment on, was that the case? Did we promise confidentiality if requested? And what was the intent of that versus it being a normal standard public process for reviewing proposals, any proposals that come either via the RFP process or in this case, an unsolicited proposal?
You have no why that was put in as confidential?
No.
No?
Is there, it sounded like,
Can I ask Kelly Dillback to come? Sure. She may be able to help with this.
So name and organization for the record, please.
Sure, I'm Kelly Dillback. I'm the business manager for the Oregon City Police Department.
Thank you.
So a little bit of the history on the confidential component of the bid.
So we placed the ad in the Daily Journal of Commerce as well as on the Oregon City Bids website on August 2nd. The very last sentence of that ad says, bidders who would like their bids to remain confidential should indicate so in their bid document. We did not receive any bids through this open process.
Is that an unusual sentence to put in a real estate transaction?
I don't know. I will defer to our city attorney.
My understanding is that it's not an unusual sentence to put in,
right.
But, and it's not unusual for bid responders to request confidentiality. There's no legal prohibition to that.
so are you saying that they can be withheld from public records request of names of proposers or the proposal?
I think the idea here is that in the midst of the process, that the bidders want to be able to have their numbers remain confidential until the city has made a decision. So if you make it public during the process, and somebody else can overbid or underbid.
Right, and I'm not questioning that. That's why I'm questioning the intent of saying that it's going to be confidential, which is different than saying you could provide a redacted version because I have proprietary information. I guess just going forward, I would like us to be really clear, and maybe we are really clear, I'm not sure if we are, of what the process is. That I agree with you. Yes, proposals while the bidding is going on and until we get a signed sales agreement and all of that, that should all remain confidential. I'm fine with that, but I want to make sure it's clear that these records are then available for public records request, I believe. And if someone wanted to provide a redacted version for a reason, they could probably do that under public records law.
And I don't think a public records request was made.
Right.
I don't believe so. I'm not aware of one anyway. I just want to try to. Good. It's not. Okay. So I just want to make sure we're kind of being open and transparent. And so I guess I am totally open to posting the proposal that we received and posting our counter offer back to FNF just to be transparent of what happened once we get to the point where we feel like we're solid in moving forward. But so I'll leave that up to you as to whether or not we've reached that point yet. We're not evaluating bidders at this point, so I'm not sure why, if this moves forward tonight, I don't know why we couldn't be more transparent. So I would throw that out there as an option for us to consider.
Commissioner McGregor?
My question also has to do with process, and I was not concerned. I just had a question about, so the memo says after the close of the bid process, we get an offer. So is that also, to me, that doesn't seem very transparent. We had a bid process. We said we're accepting bids. So then we accept a bid after the bid process is closed. It just seemed like timing was weird. It just seemed timing was a little strange.
I
personally don't feel that's unusual. I mean, if something fails to sell under a certain process and a prospective buyer decides they're going to make an offer on it, I don't see the problem coming forward. And for those that can't do the math or don't want to try to work through Mr. Conkle's summary, we had a survey that said we could expect to get between 2.8 million and 3.1 million. That was our hope. Remember, our budget for making the new police station, we accounted on getting 2.5 free and clear. So I put this on social media because I thought that, and I'm going to tell you right now, if we had sold it at a possibly highest point we could hope for, 3.1, and we had paid $156,000 in commissions, and then we had to rent it back from somebody at $14,000 a month for another $168,000, that would have cost us, it would have cost us more than what we sold, the way we did it. So the way we did it is actually a nice piece of business. And I'll stand by that and I'll defend that decision to anybody that wants to question me on it, because we got actually an optimum result with 300,000 more real dollars towards our new police station, the ability to conduct our police ongoing operations and court operations without disruption, and avoided the uncertainty of who knows what we would have gotten. Maybe the only offer we would have gotten other than the offer we accepted might have been something significantly less. So, I mean, anybody that sold their own house would have made the same decisions, and I stand by it.
Is there a motion?
Well, you answered my question, thank you, but I did have one more question for staff, please, if I may.
Go ahead.
So I believe that I spoke to Chief Band, and I also probably spoke to City Manager Tony O'Conkle about it. I still have concerns about the wetland that's on the property. And the reason that I still have those concerns is, as some of you are aware, there was a plan by a former community development director to redevelop that site. And part of that plan included using that wetland area as sort of a demonstration project, also to take stormwater and do all the other things it was going to do, plus be a major amenity, because the idea at that time was to redevelop that property as our police station and our library. That was a proposal. So again, still in my head, and I thought that the wetland part was a fantastic portion of this proposal, even though it didn't succeed, but it could be a real amenity to the community. And I just want to make sure that that wetland is not degraded in any way. I know it has to go through a process, but people come in and apply for water resources overlay removals, and I don't want to see that. That not only goes through our property, it goes through some adjoining properties, and it is an important component to our water resources for that particular area. You know, again, it's just my concern, but I also have a soft spot in my heart for that building, as crappy as it is. I spent 9 years of my life in there. And it's, I won't be sorry to see it go, because when I started working there, they said, this building should have been torn down 5 years ago. So here we go. But anyway, so thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for indulging me on the nostalgia part.
So indulged.
I'll move to approve 19-698 real estate contract for the sale of Oregon City Police Department property located at 320 Warner Milne Road.
Second.
And I just want to state for the record that we did receive 2 public comments from James and Asita that you all received via email.
Yes.
And I want to submit those for the record.
Yes.
It involves this item?
Yeah, I was this item.
Call roll.
I must have missed that.
Commissioner Rocky Smith, sorry.
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Commissioner Rachel Lyle Smith. Aye. Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mayor Dan Holliday.
Aye. We're going to take about 7 to 10 minutes, and we'll come back and we'll do the rest of this.
I want to just briefly discuss.
We're now on to general business, PC 19-145. Is there a motion?
I would so move.
Second. Call roll.
Hold on. Before you guys make any motions, I need to sort out the record, just a minute.
Go ahead.
All right, so our record was closed and you guys made a first motion on December 4th. Since then, there's 2 new pieces of evidence. I need you to figure out if you're going to reject it from the record or not. You have hard copies of those evidence placed before you. One is a letter from me, which was included in the agenda about House Bill 2001. The second one was a email that you received from Commissioner James Aceta as well, dated December 16th of this year. And so what I need from the commission is to decide if you want to include it, if you want to reopen the record and include it or not. If you want to reopen in the record and consider this information, I would request a continuance and we'll restart the first reading of these code amendments on January 15th.
If you have anything to say about that?
Whether or not it's a good idea to consider these comments,
Yeah.
I don't have anything to say about that.
Okay. I am not interested in opening the record and looking at these comments.
May I make a suggestion?
It's on.
Katie, that's empty. Go ahead.
I also am not interested in reopening the record and re-notifying it, but I would like to strongly suggest, and I think staff is already supportive of this, that this be added to things that they're going to be looking at for the comp plan. I don't think inherently it is a bad idea, but I think that we are too far along in the process and I do not want to go backwards.
I completely agree.
So just to clarify, you do not feel like, I think we're pairing Mr. Nacita's comments with your comments about House Bill 2001. Are you requesting us to open it because it gives you direction, or we're like on your decision about how you're going to handle ADUs and parking and all that such? Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I don't understand what the second one was about House Bill 2001.
It was more of information to the commission that in House Bill 2001, there was a provision that said as of January 1st, we cannot require off-street parking for ADUs. Our code has off-street parking for ADUs, so it's going to stay in the code, but we will not be requiring it. That said, we don't really have a whole lot of ADUs very often either. When we have an obligation to amend our code to address the missing middle at that time, we'll clean it up.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Can I do the second reading?
Oh, second reading, sorry.
Sorry. Ordinance number 19-1008, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City adopting amendments to Oregon City Municipal Code, Title 16, Land Divisions, and Title 17, Zoning.
Call roll, please.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Commissioner Rachel Lau Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mayor Dan Holliday.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on. 19-610, second reading of ordinance number 19-1017. Why is Mr. Parna on? Oh, Mr. Parna, you got anything for us?
Thank you, Mayor Holliday and City Commissioners. This item was discussed thoroughly at the December 4th meeting earlier this month, and staff recommends approval of the second reading of ordinance 19-1017, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'd like to move we approve. Second reading.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Ordinance number.
Oh, Ms. Richter, sorry.
Ordinance number 19-1017, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City amending ordinance 08-1003, a development agreement with John Jones Construction, Inc. pursuant to ORS 94.504 to...
Hold on.
Wait a minute, no, this
You're not in the right place. This is 19-610, second reading of ordinance 19-1017, amending development agreement to extend pass-through. Is that...
She's just trying to get it out faster.
Is it the same thing? Yeah, it's just a little bit.
The title is different.
The title's
Yes. The title on the ordinance is the same as what it's been posted and all that. The staff report title is slightly different than the actual ordinance itself, but the notice of the title was the same and the posting was the same.
So what I'm reading is incorrect.
No, what you're reading is correct.
What are you reading on the ordinance?
So what's on the agenda is not correct.
The agenda title is incorrect.
Okay.
Compared to what the actual ordinance title is.
Both are correct. The agenda title is a simplification so that people can
Right.
simply see what the agenda item's about. The ordinance requirement,
moving on.
which is more
Go
thorough.
ahead, Ms. Ricker.
Do I start where I left off or do I start at the beginning?
Start where you left, maybe that's all.
All right, I'm gonna go back just a few words because I think I was interrupted right in the middle of a statutory citation. Pursuant to ORS 94.504 to 94.528 as amended by ordinance 09-1003.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Commissioner Rachel Lyle Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mayor Dan Holliday.
Aye. Moving on, 19-707, second reading of ordinance number 19-1019. Ms. Turway?
Thank you very much. I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
I'd like to move the second reading of ordinance number 19-1019.
Second.
I'm looking at the.
Move the second, Ms. Ricker.
Ordinance number 19-1019, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City approving annexation proposal number GLUA 19-12, AN 19-1, and approving the annexation of certain property located at 19420 South Pease Road to the City of Oregon City.
Call roll.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Commissioner Rachel Lyle Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mayor Dan Holliday.
Aye. Okay, 19-699, second reading of ordinance number 19-1020. Chief Clerk?
As you know, Captain Davis and Officer Day came and gave you a thorough discussion about what we're trying to accomplish here, and I'm here to answer any questions I may.
Is there a motion?
I have a question.
Questions?
Go ahead.
Well, we all know that the Supreme Court refused to hear the Boise case, so where are we with this?
With the Utah case?
The Boise, City of Boise case?
Yes.
So does this?
So it stands.
So yes, so does this affect what we are trying to do?
We don't believe so, no.
That was my probably biggest concern.
Commissioner Smith, you got something?
Yes, in looking at the red line version, Exhibit A of the code 12.16.040, I'm gonna throw out a discussion of a minor change, and we as a commission, I'll just throw it out as to whether or not it's worth leaving and moving forward or stepping back a step. The section 2 under the unauthorized camping, when it says, no person in charge of property shall permit camping on such property unless it is occupied and approved as a residential use and the property owner has given written permission to camp and in no event for more than 72 hours in a 30-day period. Exceptions may be granted under emergency conditions as determined by the manager. My concern, when I first read this through, I went, which manager? Are we talking about a manager of personal property? I just thought manager lowercase maybe wasn't clear enough that I believe that means the city manager. And so.
Can we amend it to say city manager and not have to do another reading later?
No.
I think the answer is no. So that's my thing, is so like, to me, it bugs me. Is it worth, stepping back? That's why I want to pose it for the commission.
I don't think so.
Can you make it a capital M? Does that help?
No, you're changing the ordinance. I mean, you're changing the code that is the subject of the ordinance that we've had the first reading already for. I'm just not.
From you.
So, if we go semantics, the fact is the manager is the only manager.
I think manager is a defined term in the code.
On senior
I
staff.
think Tony's looking it up.
We have department directors, and then we have lower level, mid-level managers. But the manager that I see, I consider that to be the city manager just because of the way the code is written.
And Carrie, I have a question for you, Carrie Richter. If they wanted to make a change tonight, could they redo the first reading with you reading it in full and then redo a second reading?
Not in one
Tonight?
meeting.
Not
Yes.
tonight.
You couldn't do that tonight? If they did
You mean have the first
unanimous,
reading
have,
tonight?
redo the first reading and have a unanimous vote.
And have me read the whole thing.
Right, read the whole thing
ordinance.
into the record. You
And
could
then we
do
would
that,
just
and
have
you
to
could
do a
approve it
second.
tonight.
If it was unanimous.
Yes.
We could
in
do
the
that,
first.
or we could have the first reading tonight and come back on the 15th and adopt it on the 15th with a second reading.
Is there any hurry on this, Chief?
No.
Oh, I was just gonna say, chapter 1704, manager. Manager means the city manager's designated representative.
Okay.
Perfect.
Section
Perfect.
21,
All right.
manager pro tem.
Is there a motion?
I still move, there's still people commenting. There's still one on the list, and I think,
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Smith.
so my issue last meeting was the definition, the same definition, of unauthorized camping and the exceptions. The exceptions, which I brought up examples of at the last meeting, were RV parks that are camp hosts in individual city parks, events, other kinds of issues. What this says as exemptions is the only exemptions are if the area is designated as a residential use and the property owner has given written permission. I don't think those are the case in some of those examples. And I don't think that's the case in our city parks. It may be, so I think that there's a problem there. So
What's the practical issue you're trying to resolve there?
the city following its own code.
I'll respond.
Does B, and then where it reads, other than any area approved by the city?
Commissioner O'Donnell?
If I could respond.
Where does it say that?
If I could respond to Commissioner Smith and in general. And I said in our last meeting, progress, not perfection. And we've made, this is significant progress. It gives our people a tool to work with. Now, I'm not saying that, we can put this in effect tonight. The police department, public safety can come back in short order and simply put in a sentence that says city employees and the performance of their duties are exempt from this. And secondly, they can put in a provision for special events when you have those vendors
Well, we
like
can do
fireworks
that.
stands. Because we can do this tonight and get this thing moving and then refine it. I mean, it's the second reading. Why don't we get it on the books and get
Or we
it?
could fix it with the other fix that's already been
There's a
recommended.
motion on the floor. Is there a second to the motion?
The motion was to
Did Commissioner McGriff
To approve the second reading.
to approve second reading?
second.
Okay, now we can have discussion. Commissioner Griff?
I believe that the camping or the provision for park hosts is already covered under this.
Show me
It's-
where.
Well, you read it. It said permission of the owners.
And it's approved as a residential use. Our parks are not approved as a residential use. It says and. It's both. There's not a separate, there's not,
Can make the approval for them to be there as part of their contract, which allows for them to be there camping. It doesn't mean that is a residential use.
that's what it says in the code.
I'm talking about
Okay,
living in
well,
an RV.
I guess we're gonna have to agree to disagree on that thing. Does anybody have any other comments, questions, concerns?
Well, I tend to agree with Commissioner Smith in my interpretation of that code. I guess I'm wondering why there's such an urgency. I wasn't here for the original conversation on this, but like, if we already have one thing that we would like to fix, and this is another one that
Right.
Commissioner Smith would like to fix, why couldn't
Fix them
we
both.
send them back and let them come back?
Do we feel they're of such magnitude that we should not pass this tonight and come back and start over again, as opposed to pass it tonight and amend it and give our police department a tool to start working with and then change it? Kind of double right back and do these necessary amendments. And I don't disagree that they should be fine-tuned, but we've got a 98% workable piece. And we got, what do we have, 4 park hosts, and we're overwhelmed by that? I mean, I understand the law, Commissioner Smith, and I want to agree, abide by it, but I'm here to put this on the books and then come back and amend it in short order.
Commissioner Smith?
Which we could do at the next meeting. Bring it back with the changes.
And then
Simple
when
as that. Then
we're
it's done 100%, which is better than 98.
a month down the road. We got
Or
a
10
motion
years
on
from
the
now.
floor.
One at a time, one at a time.
Is
So-
there an urgency? What's the urgency? There is an
Deal
urgency.
with this situation.
Just to reiterate that we're not having the first meeting in January. So if we bring it back, the first reading wouldn't be until January 15th. The second reading wouldn't actually be until the first meeting in February, and it doesn't go into effect until 30 days after that, unless you have it as an emergency for some reason.
So, and we can't do that because the first reading didn't have it as an emergency. So we'd have to go back and do it all again anyway.
All right, so, I'm not sure it's, ORS 203077 requires all municipalities to develop and implement policies that address unauthorized camping on public property. This was part of the policy cleanup that we were trying to do to put in place to be in compliance with the Oregon Revised Statute, requiring a policy and regulations that allow for how we're going to remove and clean up camps, homeless camps that we come up upon.
So there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Call a roll, please.
This is the second reading, so.
Oh, Ms. Richter, sorry.
Sorry. Ordinance number 19-1020, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City amending Title 12, Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Places, City of Oregon City Municipal Code, Section 12.16.040, Camping Prohibited.
Commissioner Rocky Smith?
No.
Commissioner Denise McGriff?
Aye.
Commissioner Rachel Lau Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell?
Aye.
Mayor Dan Holliday?
Aye, motion carries.
So
When do
you
you
would
think
like
you'll
us to bring this back with edits to address the camp hosts as well as
Special
events?
And I would add another line there that says, or as authorized by the city manager.
Yeah, this says granted under emergency conditions by the manager, so.
Right,
I guess the-
exactly my point.
I'm not sure that wouldn't be covered under one. The camp host scenario,
Hey, we've moved on.
built for that purpose.
We'll make everybody happy.
And it's still coming back.
We're on 19-700, personal services agreement with Downtown Oregon City Association Staff and Municipal Elevator, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. This is a 3-year contract for staffing the municipal elevator in the amount of $464,646.92. Earlier this year, we solicited for staffing services, proposals for staffing services. We published the request in the Daily Journal of Commerce and reached out to several staffing agencies. The city has contracted for staffing services for many years. The Downtown Oregon City Association has been the service provider for the past 3 years, and their work is well suited with the other related services they provide for the downtown. We think the elevator operation over the last 3 years has been successful. DOCA submitted the only proposal, and we have determined their proposal is generally responsive and responsible. DOCA has shared that the elevator operator service is aligned with their nonprofit mission, and we think their plan is going to be something we can rely on to meet our service expectations, be efficient and cost effective. Its operation includes 7 days per week, year-round, except for 6 major holidays. And details of the costs associated with this are in the packet. I can try to answer any questions if you have any, but we're asking you to authorize the city manager to execute the personal service agreement.
Commissioner Smith?
My only question is, we not too long ago, I think in the last renewal of this agreement was when we had the
2017.
It was what?
2017.
And that's when we changed we extended the elevator hours, I think, in that change.
I want to say we did it in around 2018.
Before that?
No, I
Or
think
right
it's just
after
after that because we had to amend their contract to include those extra hours.
Okay, so my question is, I know downtown has done tracking of the elevator. I guess one of my questions would be, is at what point do we want to look at the elevator hours again? It didn't seem to me that the elevator had been a major focus of the travel study or survey that was out, but I'm wondering if we look at the numbers of what the numbers are at 9 o'clock at night, or 9:30 at night, or 8 o'clock at night, to revisit this, elevator hours, whether it should go till 10 o'clock, whether it should, whether the elevator hours that we currently have now are sustainable and are good for what we're doing, or we need to adjust those again. I think it's something that I would like to know. When we first settled on 9:30, one of the questions was, why not make it just 10 o'clock with the park hours? Then it would be consistent with the park hours on the bluff, and that would kind of make sense. It's a question, and we can look at it maybe another time, but I'm curious about that.
That's up to you. Liz is here. My recollect is in the hours. We looked at the hours that we had, and I have talked to Liz about the data that they've collected. So I know that you're right. We have that data. How much did that influence the new hours? I don't know the answer to that. So it's up to you if you want to ask Liz to talk about that. That's your...
Well, I wouldn't mind if she had an answer, but it's not...
Thank you, Liz.
Liz Hannum from the Downtown Association. Yes, so ridership has been up 37% over the last 3 years. We were noticing, because we used to have summer hours and winter hours, we were noticing people were struggling during that winter season because it was mostly a commuting that we extended the hours, and we are seeing pretty good usage this past year over it. It's last year was spotty, but this year ridership is up in those the extended hours by about 15% right now.
Yeah, so one of the things I'm really curious about, is there like a big bump right at 9:30? Because everyone's like, I need to get to the elevator at 9:30, because downtown I hear that, and people are like, oh, I got to get there before the elevator closes. So if we saw kind of a stagnant number and then a bump right at 9:30 closing, then that would tell us that, well, maybe we would want to extend it a little bit to 10 o'clock, even a half hour, if that's because, we know that people are...
Yeah, I haven't looked at the data specifically for that. We have it, so I can look at it. But anecdotally, that is true. So there is a significant bump in that last half hour.
So we can look at we can look at that data. I think the other thing that I always get worried about is just the shift lengths and changes and all the complexities that maybe even a half hour can contribute. So and it's a cost factor, because we're I think we've got good employees and we're paying them more.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I'd like to move that we approve the personal services agreement with the Downtown Oregon City Association to staff the Oregon City Municipal Elevator.
Second.
Moved and seconded for discussion. Call roll, please.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Commissioner Rachel Lau Smith. Aye. Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mayor Dan Holliday.
Aye. So 19726, discussion deliberations, the appointment of the 2-year Urban Renewal Commission position. The last time we were deadlocked on this, I asked Commissioner Lau Smith to listen to the interviews or watch the interviews so that she could weigh in. My preference is for Mr. Schlagenhofer, who actually I felt did the very best job at the interview. He obviously did his homework and knew what the Urban Renewal Agency's goals were, all of those sorts of things. So that's just my opinion. Commissioner Lau Smith?
My preference was going to be for Mr. Haverbeek. Do I need to say more than that?
Commissioner Smith, Rocky Smith.
My preference is neither. Last commission meeting, we had the conversation, nobody was appointed. I clearly stated my concerns on one of the candidates. The other candidate don't feel is qualified. We don't have to appoint someone tonight. We can reopen it. There was no motion at the last meeting to nominate anyone. The two candidates both were not at the last meeting when we were deciding whether or not they should be filling this position. They're clearly not here again tonight. So they aren't showing any real initiative to be really part of this, which is a clear sign to me that we can find better candidates.
Commissioner McGriff, you got anything?
I made the motion last time that resulted in a tie, and I don't have any criticism of either one of them not being here. They probably weren't aware that they needed to be here.
They were at the last meeting.
But we need a motion.
Commissioner Rowell, you got anything for us?
I'll do either. Put a motion out there, I'll take what I get, or I'll go out there and open it again. I want to ask one question. We have training at some point scheduled for this Urban Renewal Commission, right? We talked about that.
Training for?
The intricacies of urban renewal.
As part of the public engagement program?
Yeah, but first we're going to educate our own.
Yeah, as part of that, yes.
Is that scheduled as of yet? Would delaying this choice have any impact on starting that?
No.
Okay.
So is there a motion?
I'll make a comment. One of the reasons that, there's a couple of reasons why I was selecting or making the motion, and I'll make the motion tonight for Steve Van Haverbeek is, and it's really more on the other candidate that I personally didn't want to have someone that was on the Planning Commission and the Urban Renewal Commission at the same time. I thought that there perhaps could be a conflict of interest between Mr. Schlagenhofer, I can say his name wrong. Obviously, I didn't have the opportunity to ask him questions, but I know he does has some interest in developing properties, and it was just easier for me to avoid that whole situation altogether. I believe that Mr. Haverbeek understands urban renewal. He didn't interview particularly well, but I don't think that means he can't apply thoughtful and have thoughtful opinions on it. I guess going forward, if I would love for Mr. Haverbeek to be more vocal and about his opinions. I do agree with some comments that were made before that he doesn't say very much, and so it makes it hard for us to know where he's at. I think he's a very passive or quiet thinker, and so I would love for him to be more vocal on the commission. But given those two options, that's the reason I would make the motion for Mr. Haverbeek.
So is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion.
What's the comment?
Well, is there going to be a second?
We're in the deadlock again.
Okay. Commissioner Smith?
I guess my comment's not needed.
I'll make a, why don't we reopen it for some limited period of time? Whatever we get, and if we get back to these two gentlemen, then we make the choice between them. Or maybe you don't fill it at all. I don't know, is it required to fill the position?
Well, you want to have...
It should.
Okay, then if we don't get any more applicants, or we come back and one of these two gentlemen is the best applicants from the new pool, whether it's the same pool or a larger pool, let's get it done.
I'll second that motion.
That is my motion. Yep.
Further discussion? Call roll.
Commissioner Rocky Smith?
No.
Commissioner Denise McGriff?
Aye.
Commissioner Rachel Lau Smith?
Aye. We'll open it back up. I mean, if I were those two candidates, I wouldn't send them my application. I'd be like, I'm done with you guys, but.
I hear you.
I get it.
They're still included.
Call roll,
Commissioner
please.
Frank O'Donnell?
I believe it was my motion, so I'll say aye.
And Mayor Dan Holliday?
Aye. So let's put it out for through the end of January.
I know.
And we'll do interviews the first Urban Renewal Commission meeting in, or City Commission meeting in February.
So those applicants are still being considered according to what you said, Frank, correct?
No, we're gonna reopen the process completely. Everybody has to apply one more time. So we're not moving applications through the process,
So they can just resubmit what they already submitted.
they reapply just like anybody else.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear so that, because Frank said something different, I thought I heard.
So we're gonna combine 7G and 8A, which is the letter of support allocating funding for 5 years to the Willamette Falls Locks Commission. We need to add that. And a letter to the Joint Committee on Ways and Means supporting the reopening of the Willamette Falls Locks. Are these both, Ms. Turway, there?
Yes, thank you very much. Willamette Falls Locks connect the upper and the lower sections of the Willamette River. In 2011, the Army Corps of Engineers closed the locks due to safety concerns caused by a lack of maintenance. The legislature may form a public corporation known as the Willamette Falls Locks Authority to take over ownership of the locks. And so there's two different letters here. There's one letter to the Joint Committee on Ways and Means supporting the reopening of the locks generally. And then there's a second letter that is to the Locks Commission, and it identifies a funding of $10,000 a year for 5 years if the legislature establishes this public corporation. We have biennium budgets, as you know, so we have $7,000 that was allocated for this year and $7,000 that was allocated towards next year. We've checked with our finance director, and we do have enough funding to fill the gap.
Having read the summaries and realizing the economic benefit to the region and this community, I'd make a motion to adopt both pieces, 19-709 and 19-722.
Second.
Moved and seconded, further discussion?
I just want to say that I think this is really critical. I've personally been working on this project since before the locks were closed, and I think that getting it out of the hands of the Corps of Engineers is probably the best thing that's ever going to happen to it.
Call roll.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Commissioner Rachel Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mayor Dan Holliday.
Aye. And there's one more piece that we're going to pull off the consent agenda, is 8B 19-703, personal service agreement with Wallace Engineering for the 2020 inflow reduction project. Mr. Lewis, Commissioner O'Donnell wanted to say something on this.
I wanted to make a public statement. As a result of attending the West meetings, finding out that anything that results in a reduction of inflow to their treatment plant makes them more efficient. They have decided, West has decided that they are subsidizing any efforts in that direction to the tune of 10%. And in fact, they've already embarked on doing that, and I believe it's with Gladstone. So it represents, if they're willing to do that, I'm asking this commission to direct Mr. Lewis to contact them and ask them if they're interested in participating to the tune of 10%, which is $12,000.
I concur with that.
So, motion and second?
Second.
Okay.
We didn't.
Who made the
Frank.
motion?
I did.
Okay,
Commissioner O'Donnell.
I'm sorry.
O'Donnell.
And what is the motion exactly?
Motion is that Mr. Lewis contact West and ask them for their financial subsidy to the tune of 10% and offsetting this $122,000+ cost, which is related to the reduction of inflow to the West plant.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Call roll.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Commissioner Rachel Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mayor Dan Holliday.
Aye. So with that, can I have a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda, please?
I would move that we approve the rest of the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded, call roll, please.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Commissioner Rachel Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mayor Dan Holliday.
Aye. Mr. Manager?
I don't have any updates tonight, thank you.
Mr. Hollis Smith, anything? Mr. O'Donnell?
No, sir.
Mr. Smith? Mr. McGriff?
Nope.
Then we're officially adjourned for the year.